My kids asked me to teach them real estate investing. And the first thing I told them is forget everything you've heard about the BRRRR method. What is the BRRRR method? It's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and then repeat the process and over. And look, I spent 25 years in finance and real estate, and I've personally done BRRRR deals. I've also watched friends lose fortunes on them. And when my kids started asking me to teach them about investing, I had to make a choice on what was I going to teach them and show them. So if you're trying to build real wealth through real estate in 2026 and beyond, this matters a lot because the strategy that worked back in 2020 is destroying portfolios today. And everyone is still teaching the BRRRR method like it's 2020. And meanwhile, the smart money has completely pivoted to something completely different, something that requires less work, less risk, and delivers even better returns. So over the last few years, we've worked a lot with BRRRR investors and helped them shift their strategies. And their average deal now produces better returns with less risk and almost zero renovations. And one investor texted me just the other day and says, I can't believe I've wasted 3 years on doing this BRRRR method deal. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm teaching my kids instead. And the math behind why the BRRRR method to me is broken. And I'm going to give you the specific strategies that are replacing it for investors who actually want to build wealth and not just stay busy, okay? So why has the BRRRR method become a trap? Here's what nobody talks about with BRRRR. It's not just one strategy. It's kind of doing 5 full-time jobs all rolled into one. So at one point, you're the buyer. Then you become the project manager or the contractor trying to get these properties put together. You then become the landlord unless you go hire someone else out to help you. Then you become the refinancer trying to pull your money out of these deals. And then you start the whole process over and over again. And one of my clients who's incredibly sharp, has an MBA, is a longtime investor, told me last week, I'm basically becoming a glorified contractor now. And she bought a property back in January and now it's April and she's still managing the contractors and her holding costs every month are $2,200. So the renovations that she thought was going to take just 6 weeks were now up to 12 weeks. And meanwhile, interest rates have jumped up. Her refinance numbers aren't working the way she thought they were going to work. And now she's stuck with a property that's bleeding cash every month. This is not happening just in Reno. This is happening all over the place. And the average BRRRR renovation now takes 4.5 months. Contractors are booked solid. Go try to find someone to do some work on a house. And the material costs are up 40% since it was back in 2020. So here's the real killer on all of this, okay? Is BRRRR only works if you can pull your money back out of the transaction. And in today's rate, good luck trying to get 75% of your capital back out of any of these transactions because right now with rates creeping up and value's been staying relatively flat, it's become a real burden trying to get your money back out of the deal. So we're going to talk now about the commercial advantage that nobody explains. And this is what I'm going to teach my kids to do moving forward instead is commercial real estate. And it's not the commercial real estate the way you think of it. Everyone assumes commercial means, big buildings and millions of dollars of capital and office complexes and 400-unit buildings. And that's not the case, okay? That is completely wrong. What I'm talking about is small commercial properties, things from like 8 to 20 units. And these are buildings that typically big institutional investors, they're ignoring, they're not paying attention to these. And this is why these deals, to me, are better than doing these BRRRR deals. So first, there's little to no renovations if you find the right properties. These properties can cash flow right from the beginning, right from day one. And you're buying the income, not the potential. So you can basically get financing for these in a way that's different than when you're trying to buy single family homes, okay? Next, professional management. You can hire out people. If you have 12 units, you can afford to have somebody else manage them for you. And with BRRRR, you might be getting calls at midnight because most of the time these people are managing these things themselves. Next is there's better financing, like I briefly mentioned. Commercial loans are based on the performance of the property and not your personal income. So you might be able to get a loan and some financing for a building or for a multi-unit building that you wouldn't normally be able to get on those single-family homes. The building by itself can qualify, so it's not something you have to worry about your personal stuff, okay? One of my clients just recently bought a 12-unit building. They put 20% down, they used an SBA loan, and the building right off the bat was cash flowing $3,400 a month after expenses. And on this particular property, they didn't do any renovations. So I know a lot of times people say you want something that you need to do renovations so you can increase the value. But that's kind of a little bit different business than what I'm talking about right now. This is just something that you want to be able to cash flow right away. And if you compare those deals to some of these BRRRR deals right now, it's just not even comparable. So again, the other client, 6 months into the renovations, $40,000 over budget. That house is still not rented or flipped or sold or done something else. And so in that case, to me, currently these BRRRR deals are just not as good as some of these other transactions that you can do, okay? Here are some numbers to me that changed everything. And I want you to look at this math. And this is why I started talking to my kids about these kind of deals. Okay, so here's a scenario for a BRRRR deal. You buy something at $200,000, you put 50 grand into renovating, and it takes 6 months worth of holding costs because it took you that long to do it. And now you're invested $265,000. And even if you refinance out your money, maybe you walk away with $200,000, but you still have that $65,000 in the deal. And likely the cash flow is going to be somewhere in this $200 to $400 to $500 a month range, which is not very much. So now if you want to compare this to a commercial deal, let's say we went out and bought an $800,000 building with 20% down. So we put $160,000 into this building. Ideally, we're going to buy something with no renovations. And the monthly cash flow on this particular deal from day one is $3,200. But I hear what you're saying right now. But Brian, that deal is 4 times the price of the other deal. And you are correct. But it also has 8 times the cash flow with actually less money out of your pocket invested. And why does all of this really matter? Because it's the velocity of your capital. It's the way your money's moving. And BRRRR deals can lock up your cash in your pocket for up to 6 to 12 months per deal. Or in a commercial deal, you're starting to make cash flow immediately and you can start to recoup the money that you put in there right away. So one of my investors, and we're going to run the numbers, and his last BRRRR deal, it took him 9 months and he was making basically $500 a month. But in his first commercial deal, from the time he wrote the offer, it took him 6 weeks to close, and he's already making $2,800 a month. So you can see how these can happen a lot faster. And yes, you do need some capital that you're not going to be able to get back out quite as quickly, but it just seems to be working a lot better long term. So let's fast forward 5 years. That BRRRR deal investor, maybe he's completed 5 or 6 deals. He's maybe doing 1 or maybe 2 a deal, 2 deals a year. But that commercial investor, they're now owning multiple buildings. They probably have 10 times the cash flow. And it's something that you can keep for the long haul. I know you hear a lot of negative things about commercial deals right now, but I just think it's the way to go. So here is the institutional secret. Here's something that nobody recently is talking about. And this is what some of the institutional investors are doing, is they're buying commercial and they're completely avoiding single family homes. Now, I own some single family homes and there are times when they make sense, but right now to get started, I think doing a commercial deal makes a whole lot better. And I'm saying this, it's not because you can't do a BRRRR deal. It's because I've done the math. And the risk-adjusted returns for those versus other transactions right now don't make sense. So again, 1 bad tenant on a single-family home, no income. 1 bad tenant on a 12-unit building, you still have 92% occupancy, and you can overcome that when one of your buildings or one of your units is turning over and those kind of things. So my son asked me the other day, if commercial is so much better of a deal, why do you keep seeing online everywhere people keep teaching these BRRRR deals? And it's very simple. BRRRR is just more sexy. It's the house flipping thing. It's the companies you see that say we buy ugly houses. They make them pretty. You're going to get rich. It's a way for people to sell courses. And commercial, and I own a commercial office building right now that we're trying to sell. It's boring, but the math is so much better. It cash flowed so much better. Honestly, long-term, I've made a lot more money doing those. But I'll tell you this, boring builds wealth. And this whole trying to create these courses and the whole sexy thing with BRRRR, maybe that builds followers, but it's not something that I want you to be doing right now. So my personal best real estate deal ever was the office building that I'm currently trying to sell that we bought 14 years ago. And that one is where we put our company in. So our company was buying off our building and it just worked amazingly well. And I've tried them all and I've done all the different ways to do it. So I just think currently in today's environment, the commercial is the way to go. So I'm not saying that BRRRR never works. And in 2020, when rates were 3% and labor was cheap and you could find people to do the contracting and upgrading these houses, it was actually amazing to do at that time. But I'm going to teach my kids the strategies for what I think are going to be the next 20 years, not the last 5. And in today's market, with today's rates and with today's construction costs that have gotten out of control, to me, commercial is going to win right now. So my smartest investors, I know have already made the shift. They're buying cash flow. They're not buying projects and things they want to do a bunch of work on. And they're trying to build wealth, not managing renovations and being a contractor and doing all that stuff that just becomes a pain in your rear. So if you want to learn how to analyze these deals, reach out to me. I'm going to show you how to spot a good commercial deal. We can figure them out in less than 10 minutes. And sometimes you're going to have to look in other parts of the country, and we have realtors that can help us all around the country. So whatever you do, stop assuming this BRRRR method is the only option for you. The strategy that was making millionaires in 2020 is making contractors rich right now. And your kids are watching what you do, not what you say. So show them the strategies that actually work right now so that you can build up your long-term wealth.